Welcome to Peak Life. I'm Karen Myers. Today we're going to be talking about the city's cold case homicides. And joining me today is Detective Allison Robert with the city's police department. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, can you tell me, how does a case become classified as cold?
So a cold case is really just any unresolved case where the investigators have followed all the leads that they can and have really exhausted all of those leads. And then we don't really have any new information coming in to fuel the investigation further. The interesting thing about a cold case is that whereas some people may believe that time is not on our side, it actually is. Because it may take people several years to feel comfortable coming forward with that one piece of information that we need to tie the case together and get it to a point of closure. Alternatively, there's a lot of technological advancements in forensic science.
Right.
So that's another area where time is on our side. Maybe there's been advancements in forensic science. In the 80s and 90s, where a lot of these cases did go cold, now we're able to re-examine them because DNA was just becoming kind of at the forefront of forensic science. So now we're able to re-examine what evidence we have and see if we can apply new methods to testing and see if we can get any new leads that way.
So you are a public information officer with the Chesapeake Police Department. Tell me about your new role with the police department.
Currently, I'm assigned to the cold case homicide unit with the City of Chesapeake Police Department. And what that entails is me just reviewing all of our unsolved homicide cases. Generally, these cases were all assigned to investigators at the time of the offense. So where I come in is just reviewing where the investigation left off and seeing if I can come up with any new leads to go down. That may include tracking down new witnesses, more witnesses, and again, I'm also reviewing all of the physical evidence we have to see if anything can be retested, because a lot of times this older evidence, things may have changed since it was last tested, and that could also open up something new in the investigation.
So a set of fresh eyes as well. So how many cases approximately are there, unsolved homicides in the city currently?
Currently, we have 130 unsolved homicide cases, and those date all the way back to 1965.
Wow, wow. So a lot of those cases, are they considered still active, but they're classified as cold because there are no current leads? Is that sort of how it works?
All of the cases remain open. The cold cases never reach a closed status because we don't know when things will change. There may be that new advancement in science. There may be that one more witness that finally feels comfortable coming forward and sharing that information. So they stay in an open status.
How important is it for the public to assist in solving a cold case?
The public's help is important in any case. I would say the reason being because each victim was a member of a community. They were residents of a neighborhood. They were perhaps employees at a workplace or even at a school. And so all of those relationship pools are vital sources of information for a homicide investigator. A lot of times people may think that something is universal knowledge about a victim when it's not. Or they may think that someone shared information that they know, and that may not be the case. So it's so important that everybody feel compelled to contribute if they know something, because that one detail that maybe someone thinks is insignificant may actually be what we're waiting on to tie it all together.
And if someone wants to come forward, even if it's insignificant in their mind, it may not be. It might be just what potentially could help solve that case.
Right.
So how would somebody go about doing that? Say they had some information they weren't sure about, or they just felt like maybe compelled to come forward. What are some of the ways that they could do that?
We have several different anonymous platforms. You can call our crime line at 1-888-LOCK-YOU-UP. And then we also have a website, p3tips.com. And then additionally, there's now a smartphone app, P3 Tips. And all of those platforms, somebody can submit information anonymously. They're never asked to submit their name or contact information, and they're also not required to come testify in court. For some cases, there may even be a cash reward if the information provided leads to an arrest.
Okay, so, and we hear there's a lot of shows out there now about actual cold case homicides that are being solved that may be 40 years old. So it is not unheard of. And like you were talking earlier, if you can talk a little bit more about like the DNA aspect of it, a case from maybe 30 years ago, DNA could have been collected. Back before any of the scientific methods that we have today that could potentially solve a crime that old.
Yeah, science has changed so much, and as we all know, with technology nowadays, it's evolving at an even faster pace. So really, a lot of these cases from the 80s and 90s do have this resurgence in activity, because that was when DNA was at the forefront. So a lot of suspects may not have even realized or had the thought that their DNA would eventually catch up to them.
Right. It is amazing if you watch it, even with someone who's related to somebody who may have perpetrated the crime. There are so many ways, so never give up hope, I guess is the message.
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about Cold Case Homicide, which we have up here now, and it's actually a series that the police department has been pushing out, these vignettes or small videos, short videos, if you will, that are actual cold cases that the city has. So I think it's going to help, just because pushing them out, and hope, especially with the way social media is today, the hope is that people will share it and pass it along. How important is that for people to share this information?
I think it's so important, because these people, they may have, their immediate family members may be deceased now, but regardless of whether that's the case, their murder is now a part of this family's history, an unfortunate part of this family's history. And so we have a duty to try to bring justice to that victim, but also to their family, and try to help just resolve some of those, horrible things that they had to go through. With these cases, again, people may feel more comfortable now, even though it's been 20 years, coming forward and sharing that one detail that we need. So it's important not only to the family members to know who murdered their loved one, but sometimes also why their loved one was murdered. That's an unanswered question a lot of times. And then I think for the community, it's important for them to know that this person is being held accountable and will not reoffend. There will not be another victim under this person's hands. That's so true. It's so many people affected by a homicide. And for people who may be interested to see the list of unsolved homicides, they can go to the city's website under the police department page. There is a specific page that's dedicated to the cold case victims, as well as links, I believe, to these videos as well. And people can also go to YouTube, Chesapeake Television, and that's where they can find all of these videos. And you guys are doing a great job getting those out there. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me and talking about your new role, as well as the cold case homicides in the police department. Appreciate it. Well, that does it for this edition of Peake Life. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.